The house was built, we believe, sometime between 1780 and 1790. It's well over 200 years old. It's a federal colonial style home. It was in pretty good shape structurally. It had had some renovations over the years.
Any kind of renovation project requires planning. And is vision part of the process in any type of planning or renovation?
Yeah, well, Sherry's vision particularly was to make a place that was a real destination. That people would specifically want to come to visit the Red Maple Inn for what we have here.
And Sherry, of course, is the innkeeper
Sherry's
and co-owner, and your better half.
She's my boss.
Okay. We all have a higher authority we have to answer to.
Yeah, I have some specific duties here, one of which is tasting all the new recipes. We're only the 5th family to own this property, so it's been a very stable property over the years.
Now, did that help or maybe hinder, you think, some of the renovation process?
So it helped in some ways because there was not massive destruction of the house. The rooms weren't broken up the way sometimes happens in older houses. Spencer has a lot of history, especially associated with George Washington, who visited Spencer twice in his career. This house was already built when he was president. George came through here in a trip through New England where he was hoping to establish unity amongst all the states.
But George Washington and Martha did not stay here in this house as an inn.
No, they stayed at a place called the Jenks Inn, which was on Main Street.
Just think you ought to maybe put a picture over here because this George
has
slept at this inn. And the other Martha has not.
That's right. That's absolutely right. So one of the problems, decorative-wise, that we had in the house was this center hall of our center hall colonial here was covered with shag carpeting when we bought the house. And it was pretty dirty and pretty nasty, and it extended all through this hall, all the way up the stairs and on the landing upstairs. And when we started to pull up the carpet, we discovered that it was painted underneath, which posed its own problems. So it was difficult to find a floor refinisher who could deal with the paint, get the paint off, and then have the floors scraped down.
Now, a center hall colonial means that you would enter and the stairwell will be right there?
Yes, you come in through the center of the house and there's a hallway that goes all the way to the back or a staircase that goes straight up to the front. It's very convenient traffic-wise to get folks to their rooms. This is one of the 2 matching parlors in the house, here at the front of the house, which we now use as a library and a place to check in guests. Mm-hmm. This room posed a number of decorative problems when we bought the property because the walls were covered with very modern wallpaper, which we knew we needed to take down. And underneath the wallpaper was very, very old horsehair plaster. So we had to do a lot of replastering in this room when we took down the paper.
Is that key then, finding a good decorator?
Oh, I think so. It's very important to have someone who's sensitive to the age of the house and what you're trying to accomplish. You'll notice the green tile around the fireplace, and that posed a decorative problem when we bought the inn because we weren't sure how to make that work in the context of the room. But our decorator, John Celio, who's a wonderful faux artist as well as a painter, did these faux finishes on the fireplace that brought out that green. We have folks come up to it all the time and touch it and say, I can't believe it's not real marble. He also chose this Sherwood green, which is a classic colonial color for the walls.
When guests check in, do you measure the amount of gold that
if they want to pay in cash, yes. If they want to pay by gold coins. We call this the parlor. It's actually the mirror image of the room that we just saw. We've done a lot of decorative work in this room. Again, we've taken advantage of the local auctions. We found some wonderful pieces. This mirror that's right behind me, these panther chairs are quite old and quite valuable. And we managed to get them at auction here in Spencer, and we were very lucky about that. Here in the dining room is a room that posed a lot of challenges when we were renovating in the inn. You see, nothing in these old houses is square. If you see how that door is hanging. So it's always a problem that way. The floors in the back of the house kind of tend to slant down a little bit, which is an advantage when you spill something because you know where to mop it up. But otherwise, it can be a problem.
But it's great. It's character.
Exactly. But an interesting part of it structurally is that this ceiling is actually made of canvas. It's stretched canvas across there, which was again common in houses of this vintage.
Oh my goodness.
And if you actually poke a little bit at the ceiling up there, over here towards the...
What a great idea.
Isn't that amazing? This was actually the kitchen in the early part of its history. You still see the pot rail hanging here over the fireplace. We build a fire here in the wintertime, we just have it decorative now. And on this side of it, under that lower cabinet, if you open that up, there's a false back on it. And we think that it may have been a hiding place for slaves on the Underground Railroad, so that we can actually look into there. But there's plenty of room for a man to stand. It goes up to the full height of this cabinet, and there's shelving in there too. So later generations have actually used it for storage, probably for hiding the family silver when they were on vacation.
Well, I compliment you for keeping the integrity of that, not ripping it out and make it into like a cigar vault or something disgusting.
Well, we think it's a wonderful talking point on the house. Always the challenge in a house like this is to try to keep the structural integrity as much as possible. It's very common in houses of this vintage to have wraparound murals in the dining room. The murals show Spencer and Central Massachusetts in the Four Seasons. We think we've got a good compromise here between the classic idea of having murals in the dining room and a little more modern sensibility. Largely the work on the inn is finished, and so we're very happy about that. It's a beautiful lifestyle up here, it really is.